Alright, we are on air right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to our podcast. Here is Adil as the host, while Randia will be our guest. Okay, so
Hello.
Randia, thank you for coming here.
Hi. Uh, Nice to see you guys here, Adil, and everyone.
Alright, so as you can see in the title today, it will be are design patterns still relevant today? So, what is this topic about, Randia? Can you please tell us?
Right. I'm gonna share screen a little bit, if you will. I'm gonna put entire presentation about, but let me see. All right. Can you see it? The presentation?
Alright, I can see it.
Yeah. Our design pattern still usable today. Maybe we need to learn what is design pattern, right? It is design pattern is in practice in code, more specifically in object oriented software, uh, is a common to solve like a solution to a common problem in software design basically. uh, but as we know, may perhaps know, like today, this book design pattern is actually made in the like 2000 and sorry, in
Oh,
1994, which is
1994.
yeah, which is for all intent and purposes in the programming world is pretty old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the I think 1994 and around that decade is where is the it's not where like is the decade of when programming is still mainly in object oriented program. For example, like Java, C++. I think C++ has class, right? Adil, I
C++
remember.
have, yeah,
I
it
know
is
C.
OOP. Yeah,
Yeah,
OOP
it is
language.
OOP. Yeah, whatever it is, like they are very object oriented programming. Now, so this book are like the compilation of the reducible solution to common problem in there. So I'm gonna use this catalog from Refactoring Guru. This website provide amazingly nice explanation about those design pattern, what does it solve and what problem does it solve, and then give some good uh, diagram around how they use it, and how they work basically. But the problem, the topic that I want to push forward is, do this design pattern still work in the current programming world, in the current like industry basically. Of course, there are advantages of design pattern is proven solution, reduce development time, enhance code, and facilitates communication. But also there are criticism of design pattern is they can be overused if you apply this pattern without considering context. There are complexity. Uh, some patterns may introduce unnecessary complexity. Like it should be a simple program, but since we are using design pattern, it could be more complex than necessary. But also the third one, this is the part that we going to talk a lot, is a paradigm shift. Newer paradigm may require a different approach. Now, okay, our design pattern. This is the goal of today's topic podcast. Actually, like me and Adil going to talk a lot about this. Are design patterns still usable? Some pattern may have lost relevance, but others may remain valuable. So let's explore some of them. Right. So, Adil, do you still do a lot of code, like in your current job or daily coding?
Well, it is more about deploying stuff in CI/CD or
I see.
doing
Mhm.
Docker in a server, remote server. So
Hmm.
it is like I think 20% of my time here is doing code, and it is
Mhm.
not really coding. It is
Mhm.
just putting some configuration stuff, but in
Ah.
py file or stuff like that. So maybe if I do coding like looping
Mhm.
and stuff like that, it is 5% or 3%. I don't know. It is so low.
Okay, okay, it's fine, it's fine. I mean, not all coding, not all programmer needs to do like develop a app or something. Sort like a researcher doesn't have kind of need to do it, of course. But a developer, like for example, like me as a web developer, they might uh, encounter this type of patterns, like this problem, and maybe this one of them is a solution to it. But as you might know, like today paradigm is not mainly about OOP anymore. Since we have a new new paradigm, like a new programming language, like I am a web developer, so I perhaps going to be too much in like in JavaScript gang.
JavaScript gang.
Yeah, which basically is not it's not exactly an it's first of all, JavaScript is not OOP.
Not OP.
It could be OOP, but I don't really use it in like in OOP way, like in class or something like that. I don't use it like that. And as an AI, like I have interest in AI. In I use I actually use Python.
I write Python.
But some Python code, deep implementation of AI, like TensorFlow, they do use class and stuff like that, and
Alright.
they might be use some design pattern there. But in the practical purpose of me developing an AI using TensorFlow, I don't really use that kind of class. Like I don't use class. I use like this paradigm of functional programming.
Functional
So
programming.
yeah, functional programming doesn't care how you do it. It just tells you what to do it basically.
Alright.
There might be examples, but mm, uh, like examples of uh, functional programming, the language. But yeah, I'm going to. I'm just going to. Uh, yeah, so basically, you just put a function there, and then you return something in a function in there, basically something like that. You don't need to worry what is in the function. Maybe you worry inside of the function at the first, like it may be use some kind of uh, not OOP, like procedural paradigm, like a normal programming stuff. But at the more higher level, more abstract level, you don't need to care about how the function works. You just need to know what it works basically. It's kind of hard to explain, and I know a lot of people fail to explain this, but in reality, you don't need to worry about basically how uh, basically you don't need to worry about a variable. And yeah, since like a real functional program doesn't have a variable in there, you just use a constant value basically.
Constant value.
Yeah, you don't have a constant value, sorry, you don't have a variable, you have a constant value, that which is uh, going to change depend on the function that you have.
Oh, I
So
see.
yeah, so really this is the I think this is the most like. So yeah, in for example in this code, as you can see, they don't have really uh they don't have really like variable like in there, because they don't need to, because the only thing that they need is a number, not an object, like a value, which is processed by a function, and then that function returns a value, another value, something like that. So they don't have to worry about variable, which is to me uh, is the most bug free method to work with.
Oh, so you mean constant value is like a final variable, right?
Yeah, like a final variable. You don't,
Oh,
yeah, like you don't change anything. Most of bug in the program is usually because of state a change in the state. Like you have a variable that accidentally change basically.
oh,
Yeah, accidentally change in the program, which caused error in your program. So this paradigm paradigm of non non changeable, not change, the state is not changeable,
immutable.
yeah, immutable, is very hard in it's very useful in this new paradigm of program.
All right.
I think most of people, for example, like most of people doesn't use in you know React at least, right, Adil?
I know.
Yeah, there are to develop React app. You don't. There are two ways that you can use class OOP oriented one, or you can use functional programming, like functional paradigm to it in the React. And most people tend to choose functional because one is much more shorter. Like you don't. There are no. There are no template like which is going to make your code longer basically.
Template.
React classes facial function, this is the, yeah, so basically this is the example. Can you see it, the
I can
so
see it.
this one is has, yeah, this one has a long, like a long code in there, right, and it's tedious to work in the longer code.
Yeah, tedious.
Yeah, it's tedious, it kind of tedious, and the functional is much shorter. And secondly, the functional component doesn't have you don't need to really care about uh like the bug in there is going, the program is going to be have error in there because technically you don't care about you don't have to care about the state in there, you don't care about the variable is going to unexpectedly change basically.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I'm not saying that OOP is bad, but right now functional is tend to be the most practical purpose in this kind of settings.
Oh, the most
And
practical way.
yeah, practical way. And maybe in some other program, for example, like game development, they do use class because they use node in there, and they tend to very much use design pattern,
Okay,
right?
game developer.
Yeah, game developer because because game developer use Node a lot.
Wait, use what? Not?
You use a class a lot.
Class a lot.
Use yeah, class, use OOP. Sorry, not OOP. Use not class, like use OOP basically. Use OOP a lot.
Okay, this is quite interesting problem, Ran. So why don't you change the paradigm in game development instead of using OOP? They
No,
use
no,
functional programming instead.
that's because all in game development they use state a lot basically.
So it isn't possible to use functional programming.
It's hard because it's not the most natural way of thinking when writing games basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
not the most natural thinking.
So let me give you some example why OOP is the most natural way in game development. For example, like when you play game, you open the main a state of main menu, right?
Yeah, right,
And then you click play game, and you go into the state of playing games.
right.
And then every in the graphics there are, let's say, a Flappy Bird. You need to consider a three state when playing, like you play, you win the game, and then you play game, and then game over, and so on, and back to the menu and stuff like that. It is that is the that is a state, right? That is a state. And each of in the playable game you need to consider main character as an object, and then you need to consider a coin as an object, and then you need to consider the obstacle as an object, So each of them needs require basically to think them as an object, which is the most natural way to do it is by OOP basically.
Alright, most natural way to do it.
Yeah, the most natural way.
Alright,
That's why,
alright.
yeah. So because we think things in game as an object, of course, OOP is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So back again to the is the design pattern still useful? Uh, Basically, what I would say is probably very useful in game development, but let's see in other in every like in every not every state, like in every field that could be do it. Let's start with singleton. All right, singleton. For those who don't remember, basically, if you have for example, like if you have an instance, let's say like if you want to, let's say, let's say if you want to make a program that only run the only program that you want to run, like you don't need a second program to do it, like for example, or like so for example, if you want to build like any game really, like sorry, not any game, like if you have a program, for example, like how should, oh, for example, you use VS Code, right, Adil?
No,
You know?
I use IntelliJ and JetBrain, but VS Code I also use it, but for remote development.
Okay, all right, good. Let's say your IntelliJ or any kind of visual code, you don't want to click it twice. You don't want to make the program run twice. Like you don't want to uh, have a separate window of IntelliJ, for example. This is
Alright,
more this is more prominent in highly demanding program for like games or your Windows system.
alright,
Yeah, you don't want to do that. But so let's say you accidentally click twice in your icon, in your application icon basically.
alright,
Yeah, so it could be creating two maybe creating two instances of the program, which is we don't like it. So what happened is instead of the, so you see this how to solve this is just check if the instance create already has one. If so, you refer to that one. Basically, that's basically singleton's how singleton solve. So you, yeah, so you check it every time you create an instance. Sorry, so basically, if you try to create one instance, you check it first if they are already instance there, or you return that in that the first instance, basically something like that.
alright.
I mean, in really in the code, you do use it. Although in functional one, it's pretty simple. You just put this.
Put that, yeah, put
Yeah,
this.
put that. Yeah, you don't need to create this private constructor, or this is the OOP one. This is,
OP1.
yeah, yeah. This is important. This is one of the solution. It should be in design pattern. It should be. It's kind of obtuse, right? It's kind of obtuse because uh, OOP itself has a lot of template code in there. Basically, what I mean is, to create a database, so to create a class, you need a private static field instance, something like that, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why this singleton is pretty prominent in this as a solution, because the problem in OOP language is they are too obtuse. There are many things to create. For example, a private constructor, public static method. Uh, when you create a hello world in Java, you
Java
have
is
to,
super
yeah, yeah,
super
super
boilerplate.
is super boilerplate, like a class main, public static
Yeah,
method
super
main.
it is super boilerplate.
Although Java 2021 doesn't have that anymore, but I can't imagine that people going to update that again. But yeah, it's because of this obtuse, very obtuse language. This singleton is needed to in there. Yeah, so this is the boilerplate for the get instance, right? For creating an instance or to check if the instance already been there. So I think singleton is still relevant today, no matter if you are using OOP or functional. But in reality, functional is still use singleton in much more simple way. We don't even consider this as a singleton if you use it in functional programming, not in OOP programming, basically.
You don't even consider it as singleton in functional programming?
Yeah, you don't really think about this as a, oh, I use singleton. It's more like it's just a intuitive things to do, basically.
Intuitive things to do.
Yeah, you don't write this code and think, oh, this is a singleton. You just think, oh, this is the part where I check if there are already more than one instance. If so, I need to pick this instance,
Oh, I see, I see.
right? So the second one is observer. This is the most relevant, also this most relevant observer. Basically, do you remember what observer is, Adil? Do you still remember your course in advanced programming?
Of course, I still remember observer is, like when one, like if you have one, I don't know, there is this single object where if you give it input, it 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 um it notifies the subscriber. Like there is this
That is
publisher,
correct.
and then it gives to the observer. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, that is correct actually. You have a notifier and the notifier and the subscriber. Basically, what the problem that we need to solve is as as notifier have a message want to send to the client or the subscriber, to be exact, like uh but either we want the store to send the message to all the subscriber, or the subscriber can want to update from the store, like a client sends a message to the store and the store gives some update to the subscriber or client, basically.
You see, there is
uh
this pull and push method in
yeah,
observer
yeah,
pattern, if I'm not wrong.
that's true actually, yeah.
And
So
yeah,
this is, for me, I think this is the most relevant design pattern that you can have in the field of web programming or in any kind of field of programming,
yeah,
because
that's true.
yeah, because yeah,
It
even
relevant.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, it is really relevant because this basically what you want to do is you need to subscribe to the program that you want to the publisher, yes, to the publisher, and notify if there's an update there,
I see.
basically. This is not yeah, so this is the pretty much, for me, this is the most relevant, one of the most relevant design pattern that you have, that you could encounter, basically. uh and the next one is strategy. This is actually uh we don't use it, and strategy, do you remember strategy,
Well,
Adil?
of course, I remember it is like you can chain weapon in a game, right? And then you
Yeah,
can
yeah, in the game
chain.
development.
And I remember when I did the AP programming task, it was about game, and I think it is switching role or switching
Mm,
weapon. I Yeah, it is
that's
something like
true.
that.
That's true. That's true. So consider this: when you want to navigate one place to the other place, you need to, like, in Google Maps, you can choose between you want to with road or walking or use public transport or car, right?
Yeah.
And basically, what we want to is to select and extend it if you possible. So for this part, we have only three ways strategy to do it. But if you want to extend it by using car or motorcycle, you can add it more, right? Without changing the internal structure too much, modification too much. Remember solid principle? You don't want to modify, but you want to extend it.
Oh.
You want to extend it, but you don't want to modify it.
Oh, I
Basically,
see.
the principle of code code.
Solid principle.
However, this already in the this design pattern is pretty prominent in the context of OP because you need to build about three main class to do it,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah, the strategy interface, the concrete strategy, and the context itself, perhaps maybe. But in the in the functional in the any kind other paradigm in this now paradigm of functional language, you don't need to care about it. You just need a tree function, and basically, uh, like uh, like in the function, just need to choose in the what is it called the parameter itself to build it in the strategy. So yeah, I guess in the some sense, strategy does have a real relevant, but in the not in the term of OOP basically, it's over complicated in design pattern in OOP, in functional. Uh, you don't need to create a concrete strategy. You just need to create a function that could implement could make the route as a concrete ways to do it, the strategy to do it basically.
In functional programming, there should be. Wait, wait. Well, I don't know. So I still haven't
Hmm?
any experiences, any illustration on how functional programming could solve problem that could be solved with strategy pattern, like switching role in game characters. Well, I don't know. So,
Hmm.
okay, just
Just
continue.
added for you. Okay, all right. Well, for me, it's kind of hard. Uh, it's not hard to explain. It's supposed to be. In reality, strategy pattern could be used in the functional, but we tend not to think about that. That as a strategy pattern is same as before. Like we tend to think it as a function that we need to solve, need to execute basically
All
in
right.
this context. All right. Builder. Now this is actually uh, I don't know about this actually. Builder is supposed to be step-by-step function. Actually, okay. So basically, builder means to build it like instead of. So this is the problem that have. I'm not bashing class, right? I hope I'm not. This is just a way to do it basically. So instead of making a house class, which is have a lot of parameter, if you want to have a variation in there, like a normal class, a normal house, or a class that have a tree or have a pool or have a statue in there, instead of doing this whole parameter stuff, you can always build it one by one,
Oh, I
like
see. I remember.
with wall and with door with window without caring about too much parameter in there basically. Now, in functional programming, you don't need to care because you can create every function and then you can build a, a combining function as a top as a top one because as you can see, functional is just basically you can use one function to build a big one to
I
be
see. I see.
honestly, right?
Yeah, I
This
remember.
is prominent. Yeah, this is prominent because a class is very obtuse, and you need to create a whole set of builder to in there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's true. Yeah, I guess that's the relevant part. Let's talk about the not so relevant. Let's see, what is the not relevant? Here, template method.
Oh,
No,
template
not template
method.
method. Here, how about this? Abstract factory.
Oh my god. Oh no.
This is only, yeah, the abstract factory. Okay, let's not try to abstract factory. Like the creational pattern usually doesn't really have any kind of so the problem was to, because you need, so I think the factory is because we use class, you see, you need to create another class basically, like inherit class. This is the problem, this is the design pattern to solve problem specifically because the problem itself is being in the OOP language.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so if you don't use OOP, you don't need to care about factory method because this is not yeah. So this is so yeah. I think the not so relevant design pattern is actually the pattern that only to solve specifically problem that OOP creates.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Mm. So you don't really need to build this if you are using not OOP. Maybe you do use it on OOP basically. For example, like for me, adapter is pretty cool because I use it a lot in functional programming, and not in function, like in any kind of programming that we use, because adapter just meant that you have you have some kind of data that you need to change it to JSON, to other type of data basically. In functional,
Oh,
it's easy because you need to create just a function. This is also true in class and OOP because you need to create a adapter class which can't have a method in there. Basically, it's just a function. But since OOP needs a class in there, you just build a class and put a method in there.
build a class and put a method in there. Oh yeah, since it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
OOP, I see. I
Since it
understand.
is OOP.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Okay, I think this, yeah, you know, basically that happens in there. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I think in the end, uh this is actually, I think it's more like functional programming is acting as, maybe acting as alternative or complements the old paradigm of design pattern, to be honest. Like it is evolving. There are paradigm, there are still design pattern that we can use. Doesn't matter if we use a OOP or the new paradigm, functional or anything else. But there are some pattern that you don't absolutely don't need to use because they only solve that, like I said before, that only solve the O because they are OOP. This OOP problem that this pattern that solves basically. So factory method and extra method, they are specifically on OOP, so we don't really need to use it if you are using a new paradigm like function, not new paradigm like yeah, other than OOP basically. I think adapter still be used. Observers still use singleton and use it every time. And yeah, basically, state is actually is yeah, it is still useful actually for us and in developer, outside game development, maybe in any kind of developer. Yeah, mediator, I don't really use it anymore. I don't remember. Actually, I don't
I
really
don't.
use it.
Yeah, I don't even know what is mediator.
Yeah, I don't really know I use it because sometimes, yeah, this is the hard part because sometimes we don't even know if we use this pattern. We tend to know that this is a solution uh rather than, oh, it's, I don't know if this solution has a name or not basically. So back again, design patterns still have value in software development, especially in OOP. But many design pattern that only solve that OOP problem is tend to be more irrelevant than uh, other design pattern that more agnostic to paradigm, to be honest. Like, even though the structure are different depending on the programming paradigm, basically. To and maybe any design pattern really is we tend to use it without knowing that it is a design pattern. We just use it uh, like any kind of other solution in the software, basically. And the most importantly, of course, in programming, usually need to evaluate context and requirement before applying any kind of solution. Really, you need to check if and before uh, if this solution complicate things or not, basically. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it actually, like about the design pattern. And it's still useful. Of course it is still useful. At least some of them is still useful, but uh, we tend not to notice it anyway. And some of design pattern is not as useful as right now, especially in non OOP language.
Alright,
A
so
paradigm.
Rania, it
Mm.
seems like you have many experience about this topic.
Yes,
Now, can you tell us about this?
like my experience. Well, for example, like I cannot show you the code itself, but for me, I remember that we have as a web developer, I remember that we uh, for like in Observer, like I implement this without knowing that that had. I mean, I learned this, but I don't even know that is this is an Observer. Like sometimes pattern emerge for something like you don't really emerge for something that you don't consider this as a pattern itself. Like I know this is a solution, but I don't know if the solution has a name. Uh, that's my experience. One of the experience. Another, like for example, this is just adapter is just a very like intuitive move, right? When you have the problem like changing a data to other data, right?
Right.
One of now one of my experience is one of my team usually throw a jargon here and there, and then uh, and then
Jargon?
yeah, basically a new guy like new guy put pattern in every single of the code that we have. Like you don't need this. I know it's a very cut and dry textbook method, but you don't need to complicate things like this. Sometimes some people doesn't really read the context in there. Just put it because they think this is the most best way to do it. Kind of like if you write chat gpt how to solve this, and they and they just bluntly copy paste the solution, and then when people read this review this, they don't understand that they complicate things more complicate things without knowing. Like, I know that code needs to be scalable, but sometimes you need to consider the scalability and the readability, to be honest. Like if you know the code is not meant to be scalable, which is sometimes that could happen, you don't need to care about you don't need to over complicate the structure of it. Yeah, for example, if you create a simple app of tic-tac-toe, you don't need to really to create a very big state pattern to it, because in the end it's a tic-tac-toe. It's a simple small program. uh, of course they may be some slight the tic-tac-toe doesn't scale, right? So you don't need to overcomplicate that. And also yeah, so basically there's yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like tic-tac-toe is not so basically a program that doesn't scale up. You don't need to really complicate things with design pattern. And and in reality design pattern is not as relevant as previously in 1994 or any kind of decade, because yeah, and so it's a kind of like that. Lastly, I guess uh, Yeah, okay. Actually, there are no lastly. That's what my experience happens in the terms of analog
Okay, it seems like you have, like,
fair share.
you have, uh, you have an experience about scalable code then.
Yeah, I guess. I don't you have a scale like did you have experience about scalable code too, Adil? Like
Well, first of all, just wondering, what do you define by scalable code?
uh code that will be extended like modify more for a new feature perhaps.
Oh, it is easy to extend the feature.
Yeah, to extend the feature.
Easy
So,
to extend the feature. I see.
because how we build the software easily is to make a most like a minimal viable product first, and then you extend it to create another set of feature in there, right?
All right. Yes, yes, yes.
Mm. So what
Okay.
happened is,
So, and you seems to fond about functional programming
yeah,
instead of
I,
OP.
I know. Like from the way that I say it, like I hate OOP and love
Yeah,
functional
that's true.
programming. But in reality, is OOP is, uh, I guess the best way that I can say this is, I hate how obtuse the OOP language right now. Like, I don't mind if we have classes and stuff like that. It's just right now the way that the way it's shaped right now is too obtuse. It's too much things to talk about. Sorry, it's too lengthy to be honest. Like especially in language like old language like Java and C++. Okay, maybe C++ is fine because it is fast, but Java is too obtuse. It doesn't have real any kind of benefits to have such a long obtuse syntax in there. OP can be improved some way. I think. Although I don't know how, but I think it could be improved. Uh, Functional programming as right now, I think is far better option to build because it's more readable because it's not so long to write, and also if you carefully build it like you did with OP, it absolutely can create a very beautiful very beautiful code that you can easily read and modify.
All right. So you love functional programming because it is simpler and it is easier to understand.
Also bug free.
Bug free.
Yeah,
Bug free.
runtime bug free to be honest. Like
Runtime bug free.
yeah,
I see.
you don't need. I mean, in the most problem that you have is an edge case that you don't really consider, and suddenly the function doesn't work. But you don't need to worry about any kind of, for example, like middle of running program, the usual variable because some state change in there. It cause trouble in the next in the later part basically. Yeah.
I see. I see. In the latter part, huh?
Yeah, literally later part, I guess. So
So what kind of functional programming that you use? Language
JavaScript and
or
Python, to be
JavaScript
honest,
and
you don't have
Python?
to. Yeah, I know they are very like Haskell, like programming language. You so uh, Python and JavaScript is multi-paradigm program language, so you don't really have to use very specific programming language to use functional programming. Yeah. uh, like you can specific so I think multi-paradigm is very cool because you can mix and match between classes and function, so you don't really need uh, to worry about the structure versus the unstructured, kind of like SQL versus no SQL. If you can use multiple way, so why don't you do it? But if you choose between, if a solution can be built by two different way with function and classes OOP, I will still use function because it's much more simpler. But if you want to really use functional programming at its core, you can try to use Haskell, which is good, but I don't really recommend it because functional programming has their own limitation, and you don't really like. I don't really like how uh, in reality you don't if you strict yourself to not use state at all, you will be much more uh you have a lot of problem because how for example, if you only use functional programming, making a loop is the hardest thing that you can possibly do.
Making a loop is what? It's
Is
hardest.
as if you search Haskell tutorial, you won't find loop until almost the end of the tutorial because
Almost the end of the tutorial.
yeah, because the only because a loop needs an iterator, and that is the hardest thing that you, because iterator change every single loop, right?
Change every single loop.
For example, for I in range of 1 to 10,
All right.
I iterator is change every time, right?
All right.
In functional programming we don't have that.
You don't have that.
Yeah, we don't. It's violates the principle of functional programming paradigm, so
It.
we don't have iterator in there.
You don't
The
have.
only
All right. All right.
So the only way to do loop is actually to use recursive. First of all, you
Recursive.
need, yeah, to do it, you need to kind of like math, to you use recursive like Fibonacci, like
Wait.
one, two.
Seriously?
Yeah, I am serious. In functional programming, that actually there's no loop in there. Sorry, there are loops, but to do it, you need to use recursive. To be exact, an accumulator, like you use recursive, but each of function you add a parameter to accumulate the result.
Wait. 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 Don't you use like stream and then map in functional programming, like
Yeah, we
stream
do.
and then you map or you
We use
filter
map.
filter.
That's true. We use map, but the map, what we do use in map is actually to create a new list rather than just iterating every single element in there. So basically, we map every element. Like we just pick in a list. Like there are a function uh to pull one element in the list, and then basically the list is going to down and down and down, and we create a new list, which basically so it wasn't modify every element in the list. It's more like creating new lists, which every element in there goes into function in there.
All right.
It's hard to
Seems.
say, but
Yeah.
basically there are no loops in functional programming.
All right. You know, I just know this information that there is no loop. You have to use recursion and so on and so forth. But you still, you know, it feels you still like you prefer to work with someone who is able to write in functional programming manner rather than OOP manner.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like I'm not consider like from how should I say this? The way that I think why functional programming is beautiful because the composing function, like for example, when you have, I think you know, like I think you use it unconsciously when you create a when you have a long function, you tend to pick part of that function and then create a new function, which is just that function just squandered in the one. So it's easier to build like a procedure within when this function is to, for example, like you if you want to build uh, a house, you create a function to build the base, and you create a function to build the walls, and you create a function to build the roof, and each of function details how they should build something like that, right?
Oh, right. Right,
Yeah,
right.
the beauty of the functional programming, you can compose it into several functions. That's the compose. I know OOP does that too in composing in classes and stuff like that, but it's more prominent in functional programming. And also back then, OOP prominently use inheritance rather than composing. Right now, the OP tends to prefer composing rather than inheritance. They are new, like not new paradigm, like more like people are tend to more composing rather than inherit, and that's the functional way to do it. To be honest, for me,
Oh, functional way to do it.
yeah, to me, composing is actually functional concept rather than OP concept.
Oh, it is functional concept.
Yeah,
I see, I see.
yeah, kind of like like is so basically functional paradigm is just function as a single as a the most important object in the in the programming basically.
Okay, okay. So, Randia, are you
Hmm.
going to use functional programming from now on instead of OP?
Depend, like I said, I depend on context. If
Oh,
I
depends on
use
the
game
context.
development, of course I'm going to use OOP, but most
For
of the time, if it's possible, I use functional because it's the most, for me, I think it's the most natural way of thinking, to be honest. Although I will shy away from using variable to use it because I don't really recommend people to all the way use functional paradigm because, like I said, uh, it makes your life harder if you only use like function only basically. I
uh,
tend to be more a multi paradigm, but I find functional is very beautiful to implement.
okay. Did you take functional programming course in OE?
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
you took you took that
Yeah, I took that.
in your sixth or seventh semester,
In fifth, I think, yeah, in fifth
fifth
semester.
semester. Oh, you took that. You use Haskell.
I use Haskell,
Use
and
Haskell.
I do not recommend use Haskell or
Scala or
anything. No, Scala, like Erlang
oh
for web
Erlang.
development. It's worse than I thought if you use it on practical scale, but practically you use React rather than that language because it is bad. If you purely use functional, will have a bad time. You will have a hard time to put it in practically.
Wait,
So
so it was hard for you to write a web with the programming functional programming language?
yeah, it's pretty hard. Uh, it's not. I mean, it could be not hard using Scala or some sort, but I generally do not recommend doing it purely in functional. Sometimes you do need state for me. Uh, at least, so what I'm trying to do is minimizing state, uh, but when things are generally easier with using state, I use state. Yeah,
Oh, I
not
see.
entirely remove state, basically.
I see,
So
I
this
see.
is really far away from design pattern, but yeah, but I guess that's how it is. Maybe in next session, I going to talk to you about functional versus OP, but depend on the situation to be exact.
Okay. How about reactive programming? Have you ever have any experiences about
I think reactive programming is almost the same like functional, I guess. Uh, I don't exactly know what is functional reactive programming means. Can you explain that to me?
well, it is functional programming but with observer pattern. You see,
Ah, yeah. Functional reactive programming. I see.
so when the observer got the data from the publisher, they
Mhm.
cannot have any side effects or the data is immutable and so on. Well,
I mean, the
I
immutability part is actually from React, from the
functional.
functional part. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Go
It
on.
is
Sorry about
just
that.
the combination of those two, and it also about asynchronous stuff, if I'm not
Uh,
wrong. Yeah,
I guess.
I was having a problem with that reactive programming, pattern, because I have, uh, do you know Spring Web Flux?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry. Yeah, I know Spring Framework. I use it a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see, if Spring Boot, you
Spring
use
Boot.
OP, like super heavy
Of
OP,
course.
but
Super.
Spring
That is
Web
super.
Flux, it is reactive and functional
Mm,
programming, if I'm not mistaken. So it was quite.
that is
I
true.
don't know. I kind of hack it through, because just
Do
write
they?
it, just make sure it works. But I don't know whether it will be a bug in the future. Seriously, I have no
Um,
idea.
if do you? I don't actually use it. Actually, I just use Spring Boot and React as it. But did they have like? Do they have a variable that you can use in there?
Variable, huh?
Yeah, can we use variable in this Spring Boot? What is it? Spring Boot
Spring
framework
Web
React
Flux. Spring Web
Web Flux?
Flux.
Yeah,
I
or is
think
just function only? Like
think it is just function.
because in React, we don't in React, especially in the terms. Sorry, in React, the functional one is we don't usually have state in there. It's just function of a function.
Well, actually, it was quite hard
Com-
for
Complicated.
me to explain it,
Mm.
because I have gone through some tutorial videos,
Ah,
but
I see.
like there are 40 videos, but I only
Oh God.
managed to be able to take 10 videos, or around that
Mm.
number. Yeah, it was quite. It uses
Mm.
stream, Java stream, and then
JavaScript.
filter, and then I don't know
Ah,
more
yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, it was really hard for me to yeah,
Mm.
it was quite new for me, very new.
The only thing that I don't really like about functional programming is sometimes like uh you don't know if this function is used composite to the bigger function or if the bigger function is yeah, basically you don't know if the function is the big function or is the composite function basically, like is if it is a small part of the bigger function or it is the bigger function.
Oh, I see. All
Mhm.
right. Well, Ren, I guess it is
Yeah,
already
it's faster right now.
3:12 p.m. and we should end this podcast session.
All right.
So, everyone, we have discussed about design pattern and whether it is still relevant. And of course, it depends on the problem. If it requires OP,
Mhm.
well, just use it. If it doesn't, well done. And for Randia, he prefer to use functional programming, at least for now. Like, he really loved the how it works and the rules in it. And yeah, maybe we should try it too. Especially me. Maybe I should try it myself. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next Sunday, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alright.